A woman chooses the man who doesn't compete for her because his confidence speaks louder than pursuit. His calm presence, self-respect, and purpose-driven life create safety, not pressure. She moves toward the one who lets her choose freely, whose strength lies in boundaries, stability, and emotional maturity, not in chasing approval. True value isn't proven through competition. It's revealed through self-respect. In a world where people are constantly trying to outperform one another, where love often becomes a contest of who can impress more, stand out more, or give more, the truth remains simple. Real worth doesn't need a stage or an audience. It doesn't need noise, drama, or desperate effort. It quietly shows itself through the way you treat yourself. When someone holds a strong sense of self-respect, they don't need to compete because they never feel like they're losing. They understand that what is meant for them will meet them without force. And this energy changes everything, waiting for her attention, proving himself in every moment. She senses insecurity behind the actions. Competition may look flattering from a distance, but up close it reveals fear. Fear of not being enough, fear of losing, fear of not being chosen. But when a man isn't competing, when he moves with a calm assurance, something shifts inside her. She sees value in his silence, depth in his restraint, and confidence in his stillness. His energy tells her, I know who I am. I don't need to win you to validate myself. Self-respect is magnetic. It draws a woman not because he is detached, but because he is grounded. He doesn't step into rivalry because he understands that love cannot be earned through struggle. He knows that competing for her attention only lowers his own worth. Instead, he allows connection to grow, where it naturally fits, where both hearts meet with ease instead of pressure. And this is where she feels the difference. She feels safe with someone who doesn't make her a prize, but a choice. Someone who doesn't chase approval, but lives in a state of inner certainty. A man with self-respect carries an aura that says he won't tolerate being an option. He won't beg for reassurance, and he won't fight battles that should never exist in healthy relationships. He values himself enough to walk away from anything that demands he lose his dignity. This strength is what makes a woman pay attention. It's not the loudest man in the room she notices. It's the one who doesn't need attention at all. His non-competitive stance isn't a lack of interest. It bites. It's a sign of emotional maturity. It tells her that he knows the difference between desire and desperation. He desires her presence, but he is not desperate for her validation. This balance is rare, and it's exactly what gives him an irresistible presence. He doesn't prove his worth to her. He lives it. He embodies it. He lets his self-respect speak before his words ever do. In the end, what draws her closer is not competition, but clarity. Clarity of who he is and what he stands for. And when she sees that his value comes from within, not from a battle to win her, she realizes he is the kind of man who cannot be shaken, cannot be replaced, and cannot be ignored. A woman feels safest with a man who is secure within himself, not one who battles for her attention. Because safety for a woman isn't just about physical protection. It's about emotional stability. It's about knowing she is entering the presence of someone who doesn't need to dominate the space to feel worthy. When a man is secure from within, his energy is calm, composed, and steady. It reassures her without him having to say a word. His presence becomes a refuge, a place where she doesn't need to perform, prove, or question his intentions. She senses a maturity in him that cannot be faked, a quiet confidence that tells her she can breathe fully around him. On the other hand, a man who battles for her attention constantly feels like a storm, unpredictable, loud, and exhausting. His behavior has an underlying tone of fear of losing her, fear of not being enough, fear of being overlooked. This fear translates into actions that pressure her rather than comfort her. Competing for her attention may seem flattering at first, but very quickly it becomes draining. She can feel when a man wants to possess her more than he wants to understand her. She can feel when his pursuit is rooted in insecurity rather than genuine connection. And nothing makes a woman pull away faster than feeling like she is being chased by someone who is trying to win her like a trophy. A secure man doesn't chase. He invites. He doesn't compete. He connects. He doesn't try to impress her with exaggerated gestures or loud declarations. He shows his depth in consistency, honesty, and presence. He knows his worth, so he doesn't feel threatened by the idea that she might choose someone else. Instead, he lets her choose freely because he understands that real love cannot be forced or competed for when he approaches her. He comes from a place of clarity, not chaos, and she feels that difference immediately. A woman naturally leans toward the man who carries himself with grounding and balance. She gravitates toward the one who isn't trying to prove his masculinity because he already lives it. He doesn't battle for her attention because his life is already full of purpose, discipline, and direction. She feels safe with him because he is not seeking her to fill a void. He is seeking partnership, not validation. This makes her feel respected rather than pressured, chosen rather than possessed. In his presence, she doesn't have to worry about emotional instability. She doesn't have to decode mixed signals or brace herself for disappointment. Instead, she feels a sense of peace. A secure man communicates through his actions that she is not entering a relationship built on fear, but one built on respect and steadiness. She sees that he isn't shaken by challenges, nor is he threatened by her independence. He respects her choices, honors her space, and values her emotional well-being. This kind of man becomes a safe place for her heart because he is already a safe place for himself. His inner security creates an outer stability she can trust. And in a world full of noise, confusion, and shallow pursuit, it is this security, not competition, that draws her in and keeps her there. His calm presence speaks louder than any chase or performance. In a world that glorifies loud gestures, constant pursuit, and dramatic displays of affection, a man who carries himself with quiet confidence stands out like a lighthouse in the storm. His value is not measured by how much effort he puts into convincing her of his worth or how loudly he proclaims his feelings. Instead, it is shown in the serenity of his demeanor, the steadiness of his actions, and the assurance in the way he moves through life. She feels it immediately. A calm presence has a language all its own, one that doesn't need words and one that cannot be mimicked. A chase might look impressive at first, and grand gestures can feel flattering, but they often mask uncertainty. The louder someone tries to prove themselves, the more it betrays their own insecurity. A man who constantly competes for attention is chasing validation rather than offering a safe space. His actions may be dramatic, but they create tension and unpredictability. A woman senses this imbalance instinctively. Deep down, she doesn't want to be won over. She wants to choose freely, to be drawn to someone whose confidence doesn't depend on her approval. That is why calm presence is so powerful. It signals stability, self-assurance, and emotional maturity. It tells her that she is not a prize to be fought for, but a partner to be honored. When a man is calm, he communicates that he is grounded in himself. He doesn't need to overcompensate or perform because he knows his worth and the value he brings to a relationship. His energy doesn't demand attention. It naturally attracts it. She notices the difference immediately. There is no tension, no anxiety, no frantic neediness. She feels safe, respected, and seen. Calmness speaks of restraint, patience, and confidence, qualities that chase and performance can never convey. The quiet assurance of a man who doesn't need to prove himself becomes magnetic. Not because he is distant, but because he is whole. He is complete within himself, and that completeness allows her to feel free and secure in his presence. Moreover, a calm presence communicates understanding without words. When a woman shares her thoughts or expresses her emotions, she senses that he is listening, not analyzing or trying to solve her for his own gain. He doesn't react impulsively or overcompensate with gestures. Instead, he reflects steadiness, empathy, and thoughtfulness. This stability creates trust, which is the foundation of any meaningful connection. She doesn't need constant reassurance because his calmness reassures her without effort. She can see, hear, and feel his confidence in the way he carries himself, in the choices he makes, and in the respect he shows. A calm presence is louder than any performance because it signals authenticity. It reveals a man who is not performing to earn love, but one who is living fully as himself. And that authenticity resonates deeply with a woman. She is drawn not to the noise of competition or the theatrics of pursuit, but to the quiet strength of someone who knows who he is, respects her independence, and allows love to grow naturally. In that presence, she doesn't just feel attracted. She feels understood, safe, and inspired. That is the power of calmness. It speaks in ways that words, gestures, and chase cannot. She gravitates toward the man whose life has purpose beyond her because purpose is magnetic. It shows a woman that she is not being asked to complete him, fill his void, or define his happiness. When a man's life is driven by vision, ambition, and meaningful pursuits, it communicates self-sufficiency and clarity. He isn't caught up in proving himself through attention-seeking behavior or desperate gestures. Instead, he is grounded, focused, and fully aware of who he is and what he stands for. This sense of direction is incredibly attractive because it signals stability, strength, and integrity, qualities that cannot be faked or forced. A man without purpose often appears uncertain, restless, or dependent, and a woman can sense it. When someone's life revolves entirely around her, she might initially feel valued, but over time she will feel pressure, suffocation, and imbalance. She doesn't want to be the center of someone's world in a way that makes her responsible for his identity or happiness. She wants a partner who has his own mission, someone whose fulfillment doesn't rely solely on her presence. Purpose gives a man confidence that cannot be shaken. It allows him to move through life with intention, make decisions calmly, and approach relationships with clarity. And a woman feels safe and inspired in the presence of such a man because she knows he is leading his own life, not waiting for hers to begin. Purpose also communicates value in a way that words cannot. A man who dedicates himself to something meaningful, whether it's career, personal growth, service, or passion, shows that he is disciplined and committed. He demonstrates the ability to prioritize, persevere, and invest in what truly matters. She sees that he can create, build, and sustain something beyond fleeting emotions or superficial displays. And that consistency, that depth of character makes her feel respected and understood. She is drawn to a man whose ambition and vision are balanced with kindness and consideration because it shows that he can care deeply without losing himself. Furthermore, when a man has purpose beyond her, he brings richness to the relationship. He has experiences, perspectives, and wisdom to share. He isn't emotionally dependent on her to feel complete. This independence allows her to grow alongside him rather than feel trapped in a dynamic where she must constantly validate or reassure him. She is inspired by his passion and his drive, and she naturally wants to be part of a life that is expansive, meaningful, and aligned with shared values. The relationship becomes a partnership of equals, not a competition or a burden. A purposeful life also reflects emotional maturity. A man who is anchored in his goals doesn't panic when challenges arise, doesn't overreact to insecurities, and doesn't chase love in a frantic or manipulative way. His focus on personal growth and contribution to the world shows that he is capable of patience, understanding, and long-term thinking, qualities that make a woman feel secure and drawn to him. She gravitates toward a man whose life has purpose beyond her because he embodies completeness, direction, and integrity. She doesn't want to be someone's entire world. She wants to share life with someone who already stands firmly in his own. His purpose creates a sense of calm, inspiration, and attraction that competition, drama, or desperate pursuit could never achieve. It is this depth, this alignment with something greater that makes him truly irresistible. Non-competition shows emotional maturity. He doesn't fight for a place he hasn't earned. In relationships, the tendency to compete often comes from insecurity, fear of loss, or a need for validation. A man who constantly begs for attention, affection, or approval is signaling that he is unsure of his worth. This kind of energy creates imbalance and tension because it puts pressure on the woman to respond, reassure, or choose. On the other hand, a man who doesn't feel the need to compete demonstrates a higher level of emotional intelligence. He understands that respect, trust, and genuine connection cannot be forced or won through struggle. They are earned through authenticity, integrity, and consistency. Emotional maturity is reflected in the way a man approaches relationships. He knows that forcing himself into someone's life or trying to outdo others to secure affection only diminishes his value. He doesn't need to prove himself constantly because he is grounded in who he is. He recognizes that love is not a prize to be won through effort or competition. It is a choice that flows naturally when two people are aligned. This understanding allows him to engage with a woman in a way that is confident, calm, and composed. She can feel the difference immediately because his presence is not frantic, defensive, or desperate. It is steady and reassuring. A mature man also understands boundaries, both his own and hers. He doesn't push, manipulate, or compete to claim a space that is not freely given. He waits, observes, and allows the relationship to develop organically. By doing this, he shows that he values not just the woman, but the integrity of the connection itself. He knows that respect cannot be demanded and love cannot be forced. She senses this awareness and it creates trust. There is no anxiety in her interactions with him. Instead, there is calmness, security, and mutual understanding. Non-competition also reflects self-respect. A man who doesn't fight for a place he hasn't earned is essentially saying, I know my value and I will not compromise it by forcing myself where I don't belong. This statement of self-respect is attractive because it signals strength without aggression. It communicates that he is selective, discerning, and confident enough to wait for what aligns with him naturally. She doesn't have to question his intentions or worry about being manipulated or overwhelmed. His behavior demonstrates patience and wisdom. Furthermore, choosing non-competition over rivalry allows him to focus on personal growth and purpose. Instead of investing energy in winning approval, he invests it in becoming a man of substance, someone who can offer stability, respect, and support in a relationship. This emotional maturity makes him magnetic because a woman intuitively feels the security, calmness, and authenticity in his presence. A man who doesn't compete is not indifferent. He is self-aware. He knows that genuine connection comes from mutual respect and natural alignment, not struggle or desperation. By refusing to fight for a place he hasn't earned, he demonstrates patience, dignity, and emotional intelligence. This is precisely why a woman is drawn to him. She feels safe, respected, and free to choose without pressure. His maturity becomes the foundation of attraction, proving that true strength lies not in fighting, but in understanding when to stand firm and when to let life unfold naturally. She respects the man who lets her choose instead of trying to convince her. There is a profound difference between pressure and invitation, between persuasion and patience. A man who tries to convince a woman of his worth, his love, or his intentions is often coming from a place of insecurity. He believes that if he pushes hard enough, argues convincingly enough, or proves himself endlessly, she will have no choice but to accept him. But a woman senses the underlying fear in this approach, and it immediately diminishes attraction. True respect, and therefore true attraction, comes from allowing her the freedom to make her own choice. When a man stands calmly and confidently giving her space to decide, he shows that he values her autonomy. She sees that he doesn't need to dominate, control, or coerce her feelings. This freedom signals maturity, patience, and genuine confidence, qualities that draw her closer without force or drama. She feels safe, understood, and empowered in his presence because she knows she is choosing him, not being won by him. Boundaries are a form of communication that transcends words. They tell a woman, I am confident in who I am, and I will not settle for less than what aligns with me. He is neither passive nor aggressive. He is present, aware, and intentional. She understands that his firmness is not rejection, but a reflection of inner strength. A man with healthy boundaries inspires respect, admiration, and trust because she knows he will never compromise his values or integrity to please someone else. And in this balance of choice and strength, of patience and boundaries, she feels both safe and inspired, naturally gravitating toward a man who embodies these qualities with quiet confidence. A woman chooses peace, stability, and self-assurance, not desperation or struggle. When she looks at a man, she is drawn not to the chaos of chasing or the drama of insecurity, but to the calm confidence that comes from a grounded sense of self. Peace in a man reflects emotional maturity. It shows that he is in control of his life, his choices, and his reactions. She senses immediately when a man is at ease with himself, and this ease creates a safe space where she doesn't have to overthink, question, or worry about being pressured or manipulated. Peace is magnetic because it signals that he is whole, complete, and capable of maintaining balance in the face of life's challenges. Stability is equally important. A woman doesn't want to be the source of a man's confidence or the one constantly reassuring him of his worth. She wants someone who can stand on his own 2 feet, someone whose emotions, actions, and decisions are reliable and consistent. A stable man doesn't overreact to small problems, doesn't flip between extremes, and doesn't seek validation through drama or attention-seeking behavior. Stability communicates trustworthiness and reliability, qualities that make a woman feel secure and respected. When she knows she can rely on a man to remain calm and steady, she can open up emotionally without fear of disappointment or chaos. She doesn't want uncertainty. She wants a partner whose foundation is strong enough to weather life's ups and downs alongside her. Self-assurance is perhaps the most attractive quality of all. A man who is confident without arrogance, who knows his worth without needing constant affirmation, naturally draws a woman in. Self-assurance allows him to respect both his own boundaries and hers, creating a dynamic where connection comes from choice, not necessity. He doesn't beg for attention or affection because he knows that meaningful relationships are built on mutual respect, not desperate attempts to prove oneself. She recognizes the difference immediately. A self-assured man is not indifferent but intentional. His energy communicates clarity, purpose, and inner strength, qualities that cannot be faked or forced. Desperation, on the other hand, repels. When a man chases relentlessly, overcompensates, or exhibits clinginess, it reveals insecurity and fear. Struggle in pursuit of her attention or love may appear romantic to some, but in reality, it creates imbalance and tension. A woman intuitively senses when a man is desperate. His emotions become unpredictable, his words excessive, and his actions heavy with expectation. This is exhausting and unattractive because it shifts the focus from mutual growth to one-sided validation. She wants to choose a man freely, not feel pressured to rescue or reassure him. A woman's choice is guided by instinct, energy, and emotional resonance. She is drawn to peace because it feels safe, to stability because it feels dependable, and to self-assurance because it feels inspiring. She is repelled by desperation because it feels chaotic, and by struggle because it feels exhausting. The man she chooses embodies calm strength, consistent presence, and inner confidence. In his energy, she doesn't feel the need to question, prove, or chase. She simply feels drawn, respected, and free to be herself. This is why a woman naturally gravitates toward a man who lives with integrity, purpose, and self-respect, rather than one who fights, competes, or struggles to prove his worth. In the end, a woman is drawn not to the man who competes, chases, or struggles for her attention, but to the man who embodies calm, confidence, self-respect, and purpose. She chooses someone who lets her decide freely, whose life is grounded in stability, emotional maturity, and clear boundaries. True attraction comes from presence, not performance, from integrity, not desperation. A man who is secure in himself, who values peace over chaos and strength over neediness, creates an energy that naturally draws her in. She doesn't need to be convinced or won. She is inspired, safe, and empowered to choose the man who reflects these qualities. Ultimately, it is not competition or effort that earns her heart, but authenticity, patience, and the quiet power of a man who knows his worth.